Welcome to the Seed, Soil, and Soul podcast, where nourishing conversations grow and inspire divine manifestations. Your host is Sobande Greer, who reminds you, you are the brightest star shining, so come on through.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so glad that you have tuned in to this fourth installment of our today's Wednesday. I got quarantine fog going on. It's Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in to our fourth installment of our Wednesday night podcast, Seed, Soil, and Soul. I am your host, Sobande Greer. I'm the visionary and founder of the NCB School of and Holistic Health, as well as Sacred Waters Retreat for Women of Color and the annual Afro-Botany Immersion certification conference held in beautiful Costa Rica every August. So I want to welcome everyone tonight. We have a special treat tonight. We have a platform that I have not seen yet since we've been restricted to our homes. This platform not only is going to honor you tonight, but it is definitely honoring me. Spirit led me to ask these brothers, reach out to these brothers to see if they wanted to be on Seed, Soil, and Soul. And then this particular topic came up and came into my heart for them. When I think about compassion and I think about what compassion means to me, Black men come to mind for me. They come to mind for me because I think about my father, I think about my uncles, I think about my grandfather and my great-grandfather, who often did not use a lot of compassionate ways, but they were compassionate men. And I think too often Black men get left behind when it comes to the word compassion. They get thrown off the boat. They get run over. They get beat up when it comes to the word compassion. So tonight, I want to bring to you some brothers that I not only admire, but I've been watching how they move in the world and how they treat themselves and honor themselves and how they honor the people in and around their life, in their communities, their spouses, their significant others, their children. It deserves honor and it deserves a platform. And so I am super, super honored to bring them here for you to listen to tonight. Hopefully you get a word of encouragement. Hopefully you'll find something that resonates. We are all more alike than we are not. And brothers don't often have a platform to share their experiences, to revel in their joys, to release their anger, to talk about the real issues that plague their everyday lives in and out of the home. So I want to thank each and every one of you as a precursor for being here and for everyone who is logging on to this issue and this installment of Seed, Soil, and Soul. So without further ado, I am going to do some general housekeeping, and then I'm going to introduce these brothers to you, and then we're going to have one of our brothers give us a word, a quick word. So our housekeeping is this. If you're logging on tonight, I'm going to kindly ask you, if you're moving around, it can become a visual distraction for some of our viewers. So I'm going to ask you kindly, turn your video feed off if you're in motion, if you're, if you're walking around, if you're just in motion, just turn your video feed off, listen to your audio, and then when you're in place and you're steady, turn your video back on. I got some comments over the last few weeks that movement really throws some people off. It's hard for them to focus. And we want to ask, ask that you kind of adhere to that if you could. Also, if you have any questions, we do have a moderator for Seed, Soil, and Soul. It is Gina Rutledge. She is our public relations and social media director. put your information in the chat box. You can hold your questions, or you can just put your questions in the chat box and we will get to them. When the brothers are finished, we're going to open the mics when this panel is finished with their discussion, so that if you have questions, this is a perfect time for you to make a connection. Don't let your ego be your failure tonight. Brothers, this is the time to let go. This is the time to share and to really lend a hand up, as well as lending your heart. So if you have any questions for these brothers, put it in the chat box. If you don't want to, say it yourself, our moderator will be sure to include that information in this discussion. And I think that's all of my general housekeeping. I'm going to be sipping wine as these brothers chat it up. I've got a few questions that I will be asking them, but we will not be staying on what I thought originally was going to be the full topic. We're going to allow them to share and explore what's going on with brothers in the world, and definitely what's going on with brothers right now during this crucial time on the planet. All right, so let's get started. So tonight we have four amazing brothers, like I said at the beginning, that I greatly admire. First brother up is Geoff Edwards. Geoff Edwards is a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist based in Maryland. He is the founder of New Healing Arts and creator of New Healing Arts Garden, a wide selection of perennial North American, African, and Asian medicinal plants and culinary herbs. In addition to his private practice, Geoff is also an artist and educator, teaching classes locally and nationally on topics such as the common uses of herbs, herb cultivation, creative writing, literature, and expressive art therapies for mental health. Geoff, can you wave to everyone for us? Now, we call him Geo, so I'm just going to call him Geo. I'm not going to call him what his mama named him. That's his government name. We call him Geo, all right? The next brother up, we've known this next brother, Samora, for a long time. Brother Samora comes from a large family, and he has some amazing parents who have paved the way of what Black love and endurance really looks like. So I am honored to have Brother Samora here. Samora Sobukwe is an award-winning educator, author, and the founder of Unique Seminars, which is a company that specializes in business plan writing and financial literacy. He has authored the top 12 components of a business plan workbook, 9 financial tips for teens to live by, 13 valuable lessons 13 valuable lessons 2 parents successfully taught their homeschool children, and the power of planting entrepreneurial seeds in the minds of Black youth. Over the past 17 years, he has taught basic entrepreneurship principles, business plan writing, economics, and government to youth in public and private education. Samora is happily married to a sister I know and love with 2 sons and lives in Atlanta, Georgia. So thank you, Brother Samora, for joining us. I appreciate you. I'm honored to have you here. The next brother up is a brother who is attached to a sister that I know and love. Brother Bàbá Fluker. He is a Cleveland, Ohio native. Shout out to all those Clevelanders in the house. And a returning resident of the beautiful state of Alabama. Being blessed as a husband, father of 3 and son, he is also a homesteading business owner, healing arts worker, music media producer, DJ, and lifelong percussionist. He and his amazing wife of 14 years co-own and operate KNZ Enterprises, a family-owned and operated creative conglomerate of adventures centered around homesteading, land stewardship, holistic wellness services, the arts of creative music and media production, and more. Bàbá Fluker, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. We are honored to have you. Thank you so much. And then this next brother, we go back like 4 flat tires because we're in the same house, we're in the same family. This is my god brother, Biko. Harris. So Stephen, thank you for being here, brother. Stephen Biko is an accomplished husband and father who considers himself fortunate to be united with his loving wife, Regina Abagunde Harris, and 4 children. They have 4. Count them up. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. He is a steadfast academic holding his bachelor's and master's of science in computer science, who is currently pursuing his doctorate in the field as well. Stephen works professionally as a senior software engineer and integration architect. Stephen is I never can say this word right. Say it, Stephen. I never can say that word correctly.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Bàbá-Larisha?
No, capoeira.
Yeah, capoeira. Yeah.
Never say that word.
Capoeira. Yeah. I get tripped up on it too sometimes. Trust me.
Okay. He also practices the Afro-Brazilian art of this, and he is with Grupo Balanca Capoeira of Brazil. He is a Reiki practitioner and an initiated Bàbá-Larisha of Obatala, a visual artist and sacred staff keeper with the Institute of Whole Life Healing. Shout out to our Institute of Whole Life Healing. Thank you, Bàbá, for being here. I am so glad to have these Bàbás in the house. And last but not least, he's not on the screen, but his name is on the screen. Our last guest pulling in the rear is Bàbá Akin. He is my lifetime partner, husband, friend, baby daddy of almost 30 years. And he will also be joining the brothers in this segment of Seed, Soil, and Soul. So thank you everyone for joining us. Let's get started. So what I want to ask you brothers, this topic tonight is coping with compassion. And I want to ask you in no particular order, you can raise your hand, whoever wants to speak first. What does it mean to you when you hear the term or the words coping with compassion? How does that resonate? What does that, can you define that for yourself, coping with compassion? You can unmute yourself. You can't unmute yourself? Okay. There you go, brother.
All right. Greetings, everyone. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Oh, pause. I'm sorry. I forgot our word. Go ahead, Bàbá. Give us this word real quick. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, we'll be brief so we can get started. Give thanks on this day to God, Ala-gee-mah. Give thanks for this platform and the time that everyone spent to be present. I like to acknowledge and give prayer that our words are clear and that they're able to reach all those who are listening, and that vibration can carry on throughout this planet. This is a topic that's much needed at this time to be discussed, a conversation to be had, and we give thanks for this day, for each breath, and all the things that we may forget that we need to give thanks to. We give thanks to everything on this moment right here.
Ashe. Amen. Namaste. Yo-ho. All right. Brother Tommy, go ahead with that first question.
So compassion for me is kind of two-sided, because we have, or I'll say from my personal experience, I see a physical and I see the unseen aspects of it, or the we can call it metaphysical. But from a physical standpoint, coping with compassion means to be easy on ourselves, because we want to do so much, and it's only, we only got 24 hours in a day. And for me personally, that means that, we need to, or I need to, prioritize, organize, communicate, all the things that need to be done, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be too hard on ourselves if we didn't accomplish A, B, C, or D. So, living in a household, with a spouse, my wonderful, wonderful spouse and children, the communication aspect is very important, so that we can always stay on the same page. And what that means is, if I have a list of things to do, if she has a list of things to do, we're going to try and work things out the best way that we can. So the compassion aspect of it is, just me not being too hard on myself for not doing all the things that I would like to do. You know what I mean? Because, you got family, you have work, you have creativity, which, I'll definitely touch on that as well. But, we can be extra hard on ourselves for not accomplishing our goal. So, this physical aspect of moving around, doing things, just to not be too hard on ourselves for not making everything happen every single day. But underlining that is, again, a prioritization, organization, and that includes time management. And that's been a lifelong journey for me as well, because, not putting off on anything else, but, when we have our hands in different, many different pots, we just got to make sure that everything is stirring. And if we set that one, what I'm saying, if that's on the back burner, make sure we still attend to that. But let's see. So yeah, I'll leave it there with the physical aspect. Just not being too hard on ourselves as men, holding it down. You know what I mean? Expect, our greatest and highest destiny and move towards that. But don't be too hard on ourselves when we can't, accomplish every single thing when we expect to. Because, we all on spirit time anyway.
All right. Thank you, Brother Tommy.
Thank you.
Samora. Go ahead and give it to us, brother.
Okay, yeah, it was issues with mute, but first of all, I want to say it's an honor to be here and share this space with everybody is in this space. For compassion, to me, I would look at it from not only like your household, but from a community standpoint too. I think we have been through so much as a community, through so much as African people, that we have to give ourselves room not only to grow, but give ourselves room to work out some of the kinks of racism and oppression. I also think that I definitely agree with Brother Tommy in terms of not being so hard on ourselves. As men, I know in the household that I grew up with, and so much responsibility for men. And sometimes you might not meet all those expectations that are placed on you, but I think it's important not to be so hard on yourself so that you can allow yourself an opportunity to grow. And I think you have to look at compassion too from a standpoint of love. Because there's a lot of brothers who are in prisons, a lot of brothers who have experienced all type of madness in terms of molestation and so on and so forth. So we have to be, kind of, greet each other in love and have enough compassion to where we're able to heal each other rather than being so hard on each other, especially during this time period.
All right. Compassion, love, self-love. I hear self-love resonating out of that. I may have to sidebar and come back. I think I got a question that may come up out of that self-love statement. Who else wants to take the next one?
Greetings, everyone. So when I'm thinking about compassion and that idea of not being too hard on ourselves, you know, that really involves the idea of there's some awareness in how you are resonating with your environment, whether that's, you know, in your home, your spouse, your children, and you're identifying or you're aware that there's or you feel there's a resonance. Like everybody, let's talk about the blues, for example. We talk about like everybody's B flat, and you want to be resonant with B flat. Everybody would need to be on the same note. And if you're out of harmony with everyone, that compassion has a tendency to diminish. And I find that I'm more compassionate when I'm aware of everyone around me, and particularly like my children. And that helps me to go engage in the action of being loving, or making sure that I'm listening and hearing all of the things. Now that adds on to the compassion as I'm more aware of what they're experiencing. But you have to have some kind of baseline of making sure that you're aware of what's going on. You can't be just oblivious to how other people, their experience in the home. You can't be oblivious to what's going on with your daughter, or what's going on with your son. And with that awareness comes the ability to be able to, you know, resonate with that, and then you all can move in accordance. And that's when your spirit is open to what's the next step. How do I approach? What's going to be the next word? And I find for myself, my spirit is guided to speak what will be the next thing that will serve, and that's going to be building when I'm attentive to how I'm resonating with everyone.
All right, Brother Geoff, thank you. Baba Harris.
Hello? Okay, it didn't allow me to unmute myself there for a while. I apologize. I want to express thanks as well for the invitation. Now, compassion, you know, by definition, suggests that there's a sympathetic element like necessary. And the way I kind of took the definition, of course, the first thing I did was want to make sure I don't sound like ridiculous. So let me make sure I get this, you know, compassion definition. You know, it is what I understand it to be. So when I really thought about it, when you all extended the invitation with the title, it seems like compassion is kind of like a subset of empathy, right? You know, you feel that you can relate to someone in compassion, specifically in a manner that's sympathetic. That to me presented another interesting thing about the title, that there's a kind of a duality that the brothers have touched on as we've talked about it. Coping, semicolon, with compassion, and coping with compassion. One receiving compassion, and the other being able to extend compassion when it's necessary to cope one with the other. So the first that seems the most obvious is, you know, coping in a manner where you exhibit compassion. And that to me is just about what I feel like a lot of things are about: knowing, one, who you are, and being above that, those elements that don't allow you to be effective compassionately. You know, you have to be effective and intelligent empathetically, right? The way I think, when I think I'm empathizing with my wife, I have to be intelligent enough to step back and say, that ain't it, Chief. You are not at all understanding what she's trying to tell you. So that in that scenario, that would imply that I've got some ego, where I'm insisting that I know what's going on when I don't. So that unintelligent empathy doesn't allow me to be an effectively compassionate person. I can't even get down and distill down to where I could be effective delivering some sympathetic words or an action to her if I can't get past my ego. So if I don't know who I am and then can't go into intelligently deciphering what she said, then I can't be an effective compassionate. So the other side of that, I think a lot of times we as gentlemen, as men, have to actually cope with the compassion that others give us. Maybe it's due to perception or conditioning, but as the gentleman mentioned, there's some baggage, if you would, that comes along with being an African American male, female, specific to historical events. So oftentimes when we're offered compassion, we think that someone may be trying to, or at least I can say this, excuse me, for myself, I may perceive that as someone attempting to sympathize with me and, thinking differently of me than I picture myself. So there's a methodology for coping with that as well. Like, how am I perceiving this? Is it coming from a person who that's not their intention? So both of those, I think, require a real understanding of who one is and a real comfort with the fact that, as the first Bàbá said, we transcend the space-time perception. We do. So whatever it is that we're interacting with, we need to be abstracted enough so that we can deal with it effectively and offer effective compassion. And it's not like a general formula, right? It's specific to the individual who needs that from us or is expressing that to us. So we need to be intelligent enough, emotionally competent enough to offer dynamic compassion. Appreciate it. Gonna put my soapbox down and hand the mic off.
Listen, that was a dissertation, baby.
Yeah.
On compassion. That's all right. We need more of that. We need more of that as Black women. We need to hear that. We need to solidify that, what that looks like for Black men and the way they move and operate in the world. Bàbá Akin, would you like to define for yourself what compassion looks like for you or feels like? Or
First of all,
Thank you, Baba Akin, for that. Thank you, brothers, for that first line of question, opening up this podcast on coping with compassion. This next question blends into the value or the way you see yourself valued in and around the world. Now, you know, as history would have it, or have us believe, that there is no value in men, and definitely no value in men of color, and definitely no value in Black men. Those who have grown up with a significant Black male in their life, I think you can vouch for me and say that that is unequivocally untrue. That Black men do hold a lot of value, and they often get swept under the rug of society. They get swept up with the dirt and cast away with the garbage. And so this next question is this: how do you see yourself valued? How do you see yourself valued in the world? How do you value yourself? What does that look like? What does your value look like when it shows up? How do you, how does that look? How does, what do you do? How does that look? Your value. How do you value yourself? How does that show up in the world? Who wants to take this on? Go ahead, Brother Samora.
First, I think just to say, I want to lay this out first. I think it's an attack on manhood in general, in terms of society. And I think that they're trying to eliminate men in terms of what their value is. Number one, I think you have to have value. You have to have something that you give into your household. You have to have something that you give into your community, so people can actually recognize who you are as a person and what are you contributing to your community. So if you do not have value, you become less valuable to your wife, you become less valuable to your children, you become less valuable to your community. So I think as men, we have to establish what is our value. And I think that's a question that men need to be asking themselves on a day-to-day basis. And I think accountability plays an important role here, because brothers, I think we allow brothers to get away with too much. And I think we have to hold each other accountable in terms of, are you taking care of your family? Have you run out on your children? And I'm saying this to say this: it's not that we cannot work as a collective to help each other in this situation that we find ourselves in, but I think we have to be willing to hold each other accountable and identify what are your value strengths. And some brothers don't know what that is. And I think that if you know what your value strength is, then we have to have the responsibility to connect with those brothers and help build each other up. And I think that's important. And that comes back to the compassion piece and how to stop there.
Brother Samora's, you were froze on us. Go ahead and finish that last statement again.
Yeah, I think the last statement I said is I think it comes back to the compassion piece in terms of holding each other accountable and being willing to do that, but also working out love with that. And, in terms of just giving each other love to say, look, brother, you're lacking in this area, but let's help each other build each other up in that way. So I think that's important and crucial to our development as men. And we have to be willing to do that as men.
How can you do that effectively if so many brothers have so many shattered egos and they are so afraid of listening to another brother's positive, what could be positive influence on their life? How do men break that in order to break through?
Yeah, I think one thing we have to do is just don't focus so much on the negative. I mean, everybody has some strong point. Everybody has some value. So let's pull out some of those value traits too, and try to work through those egos that we do have, and all of us have them. Even the brothers who are on point have egos. So let's be willing to point out what's good about each other and then kind of balance it out in that way. And you're not going to reach every brother possibly, but it's a lot of them that can be reached when we approach it in that way, in my opinion.
All right, thank you, brother. Who wants to take this next one? Geoff, go ahead, brother Geoff.
Can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay. And no, thank you, brother Samora, because you hit it just nail on. And I would add on to that. We have to create environments or communities where we acknowledge those positivities, and like acknowledgement is so strong in terms of you understanding your own value, because you know, ego is just a little bit of the fuel. You want a little bit of that catalyst to push, but you can't be driven. The ego can't be the driver, but it can be a catalyst to as from an energetic standpoint, if you will. And I think that if we create, you know, our own environment around ourselves and around our loved ones, where we encourage acknowledgement, acknowledging all of those positive things that you see people do. And that, I think that when you, for example, with your children, when you grow up acknowledging all of those traits, and they begin to understand that value, then they create self-worth. And I think that they're kind of interchangeable, but it's like two sides. There's the value is what you receive from it's like feedback from being in healthy environments, getting that, like, okay, you know, the value based on, you know, on positive feedback. And then that creates the aspect of self-worth, and that allows you to eventually be able to move beyond the ego, because you know your self-worth, you know your value. I know what I contribute, I know what I bring to the table, and I have this feedback from a positive environment that's letting me know that it's like, okay, when I'm offline, I have to be willing to let the ego down and listen and hear where the correction, you know, when that's coming from, you know, whoever that could be. Typically your spouse, your wife is telling you and redirecting us, brothers, let's be real. And in that case but that value of if your wife or, you know, like, is feeding and letting you know and acknowledging those things you do, you grow. And there is an aspect of that strength that you are continually encouraged, and you know your self-worth, you know what it's about, and that helps you to even go harder the next time around.
Brother Gio, what about the brothers who their value is in the negative responses that they've grown up with? How does that value translate?
Right, and that's where, and I feel that, you know, to a degree, choosing or at least, you know, when we speak of someone who is creating a community, if you can reach and find people who are giving you positive feedback and having and wanting to step beyond just negativity, which is hard. I mean, and I'm just speaking from and I'm sure the other brothers on the call can agree, from, you know, regardless of where you grew up or where you come from, of having that, and like, you know, of not having that positive, whether that's father figure or the positive family who was feeding that to you. And so there has to be, you have to really seek it out or create that, because it is going to come from beyond. It's from yourself, but it has to come from that place, and just, you know, putting yourself in an environment where you get that. And it can be a challenge. It's some more challenging for some than others, but it has to be some type of feedback loop, because we don't live in a world by ourselves, and that feedback and that is going to come. And the more you surround yourself with positive people, whether that's, you know, in your day-to-day, in your neighborhood, your neighbors, from when you go out, whether that's work, whatever your involvement is creating that community of positive feedback and allowing it to grow from there if it doesn't exist already. It has to be created in some way.
All right, and that speaks to our first podcast, how do you create community, and especially create community during times like these. But for us as African Americans, creating community is what we've thrived on. Our community has kept our generations intact, and they have prolonged our longevity here on the planet, creating community. And as communal people, community it's important for everyone that says I am an introvert and I don't like people. That strikes a nerve with me sometimes, because I often say to myself, how do you create community? You're going to need, at some point, you're going to need something outside of yourself, whether you have been tethered to something negative or, tethered to something positive. At some point, you are going to need something outside of yourself, and that's where community definitely comes in. Brother Tommy, would you like to take this question on?
I would love to. With Brother Geo and Barbara Samora, what you all touched on is right on point, and Sister Sobande. I want, let's see. Okay, to not piggyback too much, but I wanted to say that, I think sometimes it may take an event, sometimes unfortunate, sometimes fortunate, but sometimes it may take some sort of a life-changing event to, and this points to Sister Sobande's her comments. Sometimes it takes a life-changing event in order for someone that may not be surrounded in positivity. And this is just from my view and opinion. Unfortunate may be, somebody may get caught up and they make a life-changing decision to like, yo, I ain't getting caught up no more. It could be the birth of a child. It could be, many things. It could be a spiritual revelation. It could be, you may just wake up one day and be like, yo, I gotta stop this. So just to speak on that point, that's what I've seen, and that's been my personal experience. For those that may not have, a positive environment to be influenced by. I'm grateful and blessed to have had a father that I've remained in very good and close contact with. Even though we weren't in the same house for a number of years, I'm grateful. And I mention that every time I speak of my father, because it's a self-acknowledgement that everyone didn't grow up with fathers or with a good relationship with their father. And again, the importance of this conversation right here is to, it's up to us. You know what I mean? To wipe the slate clean, use what was useful for us in our upbringing, throw away the rest, continue to learn each day, and just move forward. So, definitely my prayers go out to, the brothers that did not have a single positive image in their lives. And my prayer is that, what the good that they have inside of them, I pray that it is released. Because sometimes all it takes is the self to just to change the direction.
There's Brother Stephen. Brother Stephen, do you have you have some words for us?
Yeah, I do appreciate it. When we talk about like value, I can kind of see that as a twofold thing as well, right? So there's the value or the perceived value that is imposed on you or some attribute of you. And then there's the value that you give to that imposition. Both, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but the latter rather is informed by the image you have of self. And that, of course, is what these extraordinary gentlemen are getting at. If there was no establishment of a strong self-image, then an individual is susceptible to the value that they take ownership of the value that is imposed on them. And as we know, that can be weaponized through conditioning and media and other things. So I think that one of the most important points about value in general is a realistic view of how undeniably important we are in the midst of the creation to the eyes of a creator, above and beyond any circumstance that we could define here. Pragmatic look at the possibility that this particular instance of consciousness would manifest here at this time to be doing the things that it's doing, lets you know that you yourself are quite an important component in creation, as you are part of the creation, and the whole would not be the whole without you. So you're important. But as the brothers are saying, and I apologize, I'm not like saying that, oh, you're important, like everybody needs to know that. I think that's part of the message that helps the individual's image with respect to value. But what's being said also is, of course, there needs to be, a counter conditioning in some cases, or just an influx of good information that informs the individual until their consciousness can inform them themselves of their value. And that's the importance of things like this and the things we're doing now. So that's my 2 cents on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. So this next question is, what emotions, and I want you to use some, I want you to think, pull out your adjective bank. What emotions are coming up for you as Black men during this auspicious time of crisis? Now, let me just do a disclaimer. Most of the time, as African Americans, we survive in crisis. Crisis is when we show up and show out the best, generally. So what has this extra crisis, internationally, globally, what has that done for you emotionally? What emotions or feelings or attitudes are you finding that are coming up and coming out? Or are things the same? Are you pretty steady at this point? Let me hear how some of you are feeling, and then what's your method or your methodology for handling it at this particular time? Who wants to take that? Go ahead, Baba Tommy.
All right. So emotions. So at our location, I don't really like to use the word isolate, but we're a little bit out from the city. So things aren't much different. There are components that have changed, but emotionally, I would say that being grounded in spirit, in my spirit, being able to connect and wake up each day and know that essentially I'm just a part of this whole planet. You know what I'm saying? So not separating myself from that and being grateful that, number one, that I'm still here, that we're healthy. You know, that my spiritual family is praying for me as I'm praying for them. So I can say that emotionally, I'm pretty much where I was before all of this. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's something we spoke about before we got on air. You know, I come from like the '90s where we used to just sit around and, you know, we were the conspiracy theories. You know what I'm saying? And you know, we used to sit around and talk about situations like, and I'm not trying to change the direction of, you know, of the question, but just in general, you know, I'm also grateful to have been in a space to where the so-called powers that be, whatever they do, it's, you know, it's like I don't really put it past them. You know what I mean? So, you know, making a decision to live without fear, I think is where my emotions lie, if that makes sense. Because I think, well, let me say this. Emotionally, I can say that my time and my family has me in a space to where I'm, you know, just I know I said grateful probably about 50 times already, but I'm thankful, you know, beyond words that I'm able to, you know, create, even as if it's in my head, whether it's with a piece of paper or whether it's, you know, whatever. So, you know, on the opposite end, you know, emotionally, I'm feeling an attachment to the things that I always wanted to do more of. Looking for some adjectives, but really just being in a space to where I'm able to really go in on the things that I love. So the things that I love doing and the things that, you know, if I was out on a job working, you know, away from the home, those things that was in my head on the commute while I'm working, those things are coming to the forefront. So I'll say on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm overjoyed. Seriously. You know what I mean? And going back to just the balance and the time, and you know, it's only 24 hours in a day. Once as I'm working with that, you know, I'm all in it. You know, whatever needs to be done, just let's just do it. But emotionally, I can say I'm at a stable space. Yeah, I can go into like you know, like the finances and all that, because that's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm not gonna let that shake me. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's a whole nother thing. And it's like, it holds no weight up against, you know, the values and the love that I can experience during this time. That's the truth.
Well said, and that's real, definitely real talk, because guess what? Whatever your finances was before COVID-19, you still probably in the same space. So why add on extra stress? Why take that on and internalize that and turn that into something that could be even more detrimental to your mind, body, and spiritual health? So the word I keyed in on for you was that you're overjoyed. And not a lot of people could say that. I'm still walking around saying I'm fabulous, because guess what? I am fabulous.
Right.
I am still fabulous at this very moment. So I definitely understand being overjoyed amidst the external chaos. Who wants to take on this next one?
And I'll say one more quick thing.
Okay.
Now I'm fully aware. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to, you know, make it, you know, seem like I'm oblivious. But, you know, the awareness, you know, just a whole balance of the positive and the negative. So, you know, I just chose some positive on that.
Yeah, you're choosing positivity, and that's gonna trump every time. Oh, don't. Okay, I didn't mean to use those words. Get back, universe. I didn't mean those words. All right. Who is going next here? Baba, Ken. Let's see.
Can you hear me now? Everybody hear me? All right. Thank you. So I definitely agree with you, Baba Fluker. I do believe the Creator would bring us through this unscathed. But if I had to choose some words to deal with our current status, they are deceit, frustration, a little bit of helpfulness, you know, because we can't change the outer parameters that are going on. But like Brother Fluker said, you know, keeping our head grounded to our Creator, doing what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. We're going to get through this whole thing. You know, there's nothing that can stop us. We've been here before, and we're going to continue to be here. That's just how I feel about it. This is on that question.
All right, Baba. Ken, thank you. Which brother wants to tackle that with your adjectives?
All right. For me, I would say emotionally, it's been a sense of not so much of a fear, but more of a guardedness. And where that has come from is just from having, so I have three sons, but with having one of my sons, the middle boy, who just historically has had a strong, especially in his younger childhood. He's 13 now, but history with asthma. And that's what led me into the path of my healing arts work and everything. That's where I am now. It was that pushed me as a father to take it upon myself to study, you know, the herbs and the plants and all the healing modalities that would be beneficial to help him. But even with that being said, that and just at the notion of something, you know, we have is multiple plausible theories and such and what is causing lung issues for people, but whatever it is, the fact that people are having issues with their lungs and just him having a past of being inflicted in his lungs when he would catch a pathogen or a flu and such, to the point of needing hospitalizations and admissions. So it's more of like my warrior healer daddy mode kicks in of guardedness. So it's as to be the protector, but so we'll being the protector of my family, but at the same time, there, because of that being like the history, that fear has been brought down heavily because I live in a state of being prepared, and prepared across the board, prepared spiritually, prepared because we mentioned the word self-image and self-worth earlier, and as far as my self-image, I know that myself is at the root of who I am, my true nature, to be divine and infinite peace. And I can't be moved from that rock. So regardless of the circumstances that come against us, I am who I am. So at that being the root, now anything that comes against my family comes against anyone, I know who I am at the root. And because of that, again, going back to that preparedness, I'm the one that's been stocking herb shelves and growing plants and all that stuff for lung, and any pathogen that they try to throw my way, you best believe it's out in their yard or in that garden, or I got it on deck because I've been doing my diligence on that end as protector and provider for my family. And that has allowed me to navigate through this current pandemic with a lot more of a, there's a lot more ease than I would have been 5 years or 10 years ago as a Baba. But that came about from doing the work and being committed to doing the work to make sure that in the case of something like this comes around, that we are prepared. And so knowing myself and being able to stay at peace, that helps diminish that fear, but then being prepared in a sense of being able to approach anything that may come against us, from that. But then of course, because of the finances, things that have been disrupted, to be able to stay in a state of peace. And not just like a false peace, like true peace, like walking around, as you all have mentioned, and as you mentioned, Sister Sobande, about, I'm great, I'm good, and despite whatever could happen, we're good here, because that's what I know. It's not a guess. I know myself to be from an origin of healing and peace. And that's really what helps me navigate when, from some of those strong emotions of fear initially start coming up, because they bubble up because we have our own, traumas around, experiences around that. And so because of that, being willing to do the work, the spiritual work, the mental work, the physical work, to make sure that we're prepared. Because like you say, brother, it ain't a conspiracy. They ain't conspiracies. It's like being prepared from reading that information back in the day and knowing, like, I don't put nothing past these people. And because of that, I'm going to make sure that we got us and that we going to take care of us. And that's, that's where we are, how I stand around the emotions.
Right. Thank you, Brother Gio. Perfect peace, standing peace is important. Brother Samora?
Okay. I would say my emotions would be, I feel positive. I feel creative, more creative. Being able to focus on some of the passions that I have. So I really feel more creative during this time period. I feel closer to my family because we spend a lot more time together in our household. So, but I also feel frustrated too at times as well. I think the frustration comes from, the powers that be can do things like this, and we have little control as to how these things operate. So I'd be frustrated about that because I don't know what the end goal is. So I think we have to be more prepared for these situations as well.
All right. Brother Stephen.
All right. Well, as far as emotions, the one that came to me was awareness. And I guess it's kind of a collection of emotions rather than just like one emotion. But an awareness more so for what can I receive? What in this time of stillness and, you know, socially separated society, what's going to come to me? What do I need to be aware of? I mean, of course, when you talk about compassion, you know, the overreaching theme of the talk, I do feel compassion, both, you know, to me from my family, and then also for others who are in different situations. So that's kind of it. Grateful is, as Bàbá said earlier, grateful and appreciative. So that's kind of it for me.
All right, grateful and appreciative. Those are two tenets that I think that are sometimes hard to find in our communities. I think a lot of times it becomes the rhetoric of our community. You know, ask any Black person, how you doing today? Oh, I'm grateful. Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. But are they really walking in that light? Are they really manifesting what gratefulness looks like? What that looks like, what being blessed looks like? I think a lot of times the rhetoric overrides the real reality, or the rhetoric overrides the reality of it. And we begin to either have to, I think we have to, sometimes we have to shelter in place spiritually, emotionally, to really go inside to figure out what are the real blessings in our life. Where are we remaining steadfast and unmovable? And what are we holding true to? What are we standing on? What are the pillars that we are standing on as African Americans that dictate compassion, and what that looks like, and how we've tuned into being compassionate to ourselves, to our loved ones, to those whom we don't even like. What does that level of compassion look like? And as an African American, when you haven't received compassion before from the outside, sometimes you can become pretty bitter when it comes to being compassionate. And your PTSD shows up, your post-traumatic slave syndrome shows up, and compassion is out the window because, you know, your mama didn't show it, your daddy didn't show it, if you had one around, or, you know, so many of our circumstances, our life circumstances dictate our levels of how we seek compassion and how we give compassion and how we can receive compassion as well. This next question, I don't know if all of you are able to go into this next question. But I want to ask, and it's on this list, but this is kind of for my own personal benefit as well, because brothers don't often talk about it. What is your communication style? What is your communication style? Example, mine is acts of service. It's my love language, and it's also my communication style. Acts of service. So I say to you, brothers, have you figured out what your own personal communication style is? and how that communication style shows up when does it show up when you're compassionate? Does it show up when someone's giving you those compassionate moments? Someone want to take that on? What's your communication style? Do you know it? Go ahead, Samora. Samora, can you do me a favor and turn your volume up? I don't know if it's all the way up, but if it's all the way up.
All right.
My
communication style would be action as well. I think that's the best form for me. Like what I'm doing for my community, what I'm doing for my wife, what I'm doing for my children, it has to be something that I show and do. And it's not something that they have to ask for all the time, but it's something that I just go into and do for them because I love them. I love my community, so I do work in terms of the work that I put out in my community from a financial literacy standpoint. So the love that I show my wife when I bring her flowers, you know, it's an action. Or when I rub her feet, those things are actions to me. Or when I take my children and teach them something new, you know, those are things. That's how I communicate, and that's pretty much it. That's how I serve.
Who else? Anyone else know their language, their love language, their communication language? Brothers are not often asked about their communication style. You know, everybody thinks that y'all just angry. You just wake up angry, you go to bed angry, you spend your whole day as an angry Black man. Go ahead, Geoff.
I will definitely agree with that as far as the service and the provider aspect, and that goes to as far as like communicating my love for my family goes from being the first person up in the morning. And because I'm the first person up in the morning in the house, I'm usually the one that is getting that first meal together for the day. Like in that, so I'm usually the one up, like the day is going for everybody. By helping everybody else to ease into their day, that takes some weight off my shoulders for how my day navigates, making sure everybody else is good. And I found it has not always been that way. But I found as far as in a family and having, you know, children and such, like what at the end of the day, like understanding what helps me to be in my flow. And if I'm in my flow, I'm communicating, aware of things, and what helps me doing that is helping everybody get, so providing in that way, you know, providing other ways as well, but just in the day-to-day is that type of stuff, that helping to remove barriers and things for other, you know, the folks that are around me, that to help them get into their flow. And then that helps me to be I'm a facilitator at home and in my work. Like I facilitate and help facilitate the process of 3 little boys, or two teens and a little toddler, by helping them, you know, provide and make sure that they got something, the energy, they got some good nourishing, something good for the day, and they not focused and worried about some of the other things. So in that way, but I guess also in communication, I am more of the listen to everybody else's perspective first in the house before I bark back and give my opinion. I want to take in everything, and then, okay, so this is what the situation is. So I'm usually not the first to speak in the family or in the house, and that's from growing up in Chad. That's just my, you know, my style of communicating is to hear the arguments, hear all sides first, and then, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that insight, Brother Geoff. Anybody else want to, Brother Tommy, Baba Tommy?
All right. I'll say my communication style is also very action based. But I also add as well, and similar it is kind of similar to what Brother Geoff was saying. Is is listening and the act of being mindful of everyone's needs. And I think this was mentioned earlier on, but you know, each individual has their own, you know, quote unquote love language as well. But just really, you know, just being in tune with that, I think has helped, you know, just to keep the wheels turning in the household. You know, because we weren't, or I'll say for me in particular, wasn't really taught to express our emotions vocally, verbally. I'm really been working on balancing out the action with the actual verbal. And that's just creating that, you know, just maintaining the balance between, you know, just our individual energy. You know, my wife is very vocal. She's probably the most vocal person I know. You know what I mean? But our environment gives us teachers. You know what I mean? And we're able to exchange that, you know, that gift that we all have, that each of us have. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. I think every Black man with a woman on his arm would say that his woman has the biggest mouth. It can, you know, I'm just saying, you know, got a lot. Y'all always got a lot to say. Dot. Well, you know. That's a sidebar. Who else wants to take that question? Brother Stephen, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now. I think I'm being heard. I don't know, my communication style is what I would like to consider evolving. Naturally, like most people, you know, in our circles, I'm an introverted person. So as far as communicating, you know, it's like I'm gonna sit back, and if somebody needs me, I'm gonna be as prepared as possible to divulge information. And oftentimes I knew when I communicated, you see, this is a problem with like an introverted communication style. The way I communicated made perfect sense to me, but because I wasn't engaged enough with other people regularly, I didn't recognize how to communicate my points, you know, verbally and socially to people. So it became like a thing. But I was certain, due to the introversion, that I was correct. And oftentimes, you know, from a stringent standpoint, I was. Yes, I had the facts. However, the communication, me communicating those things, wasn't great. And as it was mentioned, Bàbá said, you know, our environment gives us teachers, and that is 100% true. My wife is an extraordinary communicator. So right now, my communication style is evolving as I've had the opportunity to not only learn from how she communicates, but learn how to communicate to someone who is much more evolved and learned in the area of communicating, communicating socially with other human beings, you know, much more advanced than I am. So it's evolving, and I'm appreciative of that.
It's so weird hearing you all talk about your communication style. I realize that it's not a question that's often asked, how Black men communicate. We just, I don't know, I guess we just assume you all just show up and just begin doing what it is that you do. So it's a pleasure to hear your communication style. Bàbá Kim, would you like to jump in on this question before we move to the next one?
First, for me, I think listening has been my number one communication style from day one. You know, as a young kid, you know, I used to get teased about sitting on the couch rocking, right? But I was listening. I was listening and paying attention to the environment that I was in. You know, uncles, cousins, friends, whatever it might be, I was listening. Now, of course, as an adult, I've had to fine tune that thing. You know, at work, having a mate, spouse, friend, children, I had to fine tune that essence. Second is just speaking what's on my mind when it comes. Now, previously, it contained a lot of anger, but I also had to teach myself that too, you know, through the tools I just mentioned a few minutes ago. So being able to effectively communicate what you want has been what I would call my communication style. And then thirdly, I lost the point. Thirdly, I think as men, we're providers. So our love languages are always going to be acts of service. You know, and I'm saying it in the box of if you're truly a man per se, not no boy pretending to be a boy. You know, we have some of those that we might know, you know, that we might have to teach. But I'm saying, you know, the men that's sitting here on this panel here, and the ones that I personally know, outside of you all, you know, they're men. You know, so I think all of us, you know, are doing what we're supposed to do in regards to our universe and our community. You know, my universe is my wife and my kids and my employment, as we'll say, to keep everything running. So, you know, if I'm out in the yard cutting the grass, if I'm out there doing the garden, I'm painting, that's my act of service to my household and for myself, because I know I'm going to benefit from it as well. I don't like a dirty house. So I can get in there and wash the dishes, you know, and let my wife know, look, baby, this is not going to go to hell if you don't do it, you know. So that's my piece on that.
Listen, ain't nothing like a man who can wash some clothes, wash some dishes, vacuum a floor, mop a floor, clean a bath. Does a soul good. When we talk about feelings, gentlemen, we're talking about these languages and communication styles, especially of Black men. Let me ask you this. When you are involved in intense moments and you have to show some compassion, or maybe you don't show any compassion, how do you handle your feelings, and how does that show up and show out in the environments that you abide in? You know, how does that show up? Akin touched lightly on that his used to show up as anger, and it did. It just used to be anger. He would get loud. Sometimes he'd pound the table or the desk. You know, it would show up in anger. So how have each of you learned, or are you still learning, how to navigate your intense feelings, and how does that show up for you in your everyday life? And how are you invoking compassion, or maybe you're not invoking compassion. Maybe compassion isn't even in the picture when these intense feelings come about. Somebody want to take that? Go ahead, Brother Tommy.
All right. So so one, let's see. I'm thinking of a couple things, but one thing off the top is, waking up each morning and being able to, and this is something that I share with the children as well, is to create a good day. Just last week, our youngest daughter had a loose tooth, and it was just messing up her whole vibe. The whole energy was just shot. Because, it was just kind of hanging. Maybe, she might have felt a little something. And when that tooth came out, she was good for the rest of the day. But I told her before it came out, I'm like, it's not too late to create a good day. You know what I'm saying? So it just so happened that the tooth did come out. So, I'm hoping that she put one and one together. But, just reiterating that. But waking up with that each day, just to start the day off as on the highest vibration as possible. But if those moments show up anyway, it's more or less, just knowing that, or as they say, choosing your battles. How much energy do I want to put in? Again, if the children doing something they know they're not supposed to be doing, let me turn this device.
Are you quick to anger, Baba Time?
My threshold to anger is
on a scale from
far reaching.
On zero to 10, how fast do you get to 0 to 10?
It takes a minute. Like it takes a lot for me to get to the point to where, I'm losing my cool. You know what I'm saying? And that's again, just pointing to, just being grounded in my faith and just my daily practice. But just coming up as a child, like, my energy has always been very like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have to really be pushed for it to, fly through the roof. But, and things like disrespect, mistreatment to people, it had to be something pretty serious. But if I get frustrated to the point to where, it's crossing the threshold, it's just a matter of me just grounding myself and stepping outside or just not put that much weight on it. You know what I'm saying? Because, if somebody's doing something else supposed to be doing, like, do I really need to get that upset about that? You know what I'm saying? So, just having a vision of what I want to think, what I want to happen, but also as things happen or as spirit moves, just being able to adjust and adapt.
Adjust and adapt. I hear that. Adjust and adapt. Don't you think that that's the pillar that our ancestors stood on? Adjust and adapt. I think we are notorious for being able to adjust and adapt, which is why a lot of us should not put so much of the world's energy into what's happening and try to remain focused on the things that we were focused on prior to. I was saying in my earlier podcast that this is a reset time. This is a reset for not only the planet, but it's a reset for us in our individual walks and in our homes and in our, in our communities. This is a reset time. And so being able to adjust and adapt is either going to show up or it's going to show out really, really really in a really, really amazing way, or really, really in a really, really bad way that does not serve our highest and greatest good. Thank you, Brother Tommy. Who wants to tackle that question? Just an adapt. I like that. Brother Samora.
I would say it used to be kind of anger in terms of like when it's frustration, especially when my son, I guess, was not doing some of the things he was supposed to be doing. You know, it came out of kind of like anger. Why are you doing this? But so I had to do a lot of meditation and prayers too, just to get at that space of, you know, focusing in on how to approach it in a different way to get a different result. And that's been very helpful for me. And I guess too, I was angerness of like what's happening in our community. So I had a lot of anger around that. Like the community was oppressed, and I was figuring out how can I solve this problem. So I thought a lot of the urgent of solving the problem in our community. So, but that has kind of changed now through my meditation prayers.
Has it made you better, Samora?
It definitely made me better because I think I communicate better now. It helps me solve problems better. Because when you act from a place of anger, first off, nobody's going to listen to you because they feel insulted or disrespected. So you have to approach it in a different way to get the best result that you need to get from.
Do you think that the anger most brothers feel or have experienced is a self-perpetuated anger, or is that anger that's been perpetuated on them?
I think it's been perpetuated on them in some degree, but then too, the more you live in society and see you just being constantly mistreated and abused, I think you become angry as well. In terms of, we feel helpless sometimes, helpless to solve the problem. So you become angry because of that. And I think as men, our first response to just oppression alone is to fight. So if you don't have the tools to fight with, then you become angry in terms of, because most of the people who are doing the evil things they do are using guns and those type of things. So it's like, how do we really solve this problem? So you become angry because you can't really figure out how to solve it. So you know, I think we have to be angry just because we can't solve the problem.
That's deep. Who wants to take this on? Brother Geoff?
I will say that it has definitely been a shift for me, and I will say that I think that in part of the question was like how do you get from 0 to 100? I used to be definitely much more easily more prone to going 0 to 100, letting things trigger, and it just had to come to a point of doing the self-work. And doing so in a combination of the meditations, which have been very, very important, meditation in general, and understanding what are some of my, my blind spots, and doing the work and working with, doing mantras, you name it, work around that to really help me understand more, and just in being in this line of work, practicing what I preach, and working in many spaces when you talk and work with people who are working with around, the emotions of frustration, anger, all the emotions, but, and talking about frustration, anger, and that being the one that would trip me up the most. So in like from, banging the hand on the table or, getting out, like, I know when I'm going beyond that one place, that balanced place, when the house is silent. I have a voice that carries. It shakes the walls. Like my kids hear me. So when I start getting loud, when I'm getting in that space and everybody's, all right, I'm going too far. That's number one indicator for me, because I know that I'm impacting them in a way where it's not getting through. Now they're responding in emotion as opposed to being open to what it is my true request or what it I'm trying to get out of them. But I know that's definitely something that's that I'm aware of. It's like when nobody's talking back, when it's just a silent, I'm talking to myself and I'm loud and I hear my own voice reverberating off the walls because I'm on one of my tangents. I'm not getting through to anybody. And I need to change my direction. I need to go breathe and just step outside. So with that, and then, I mean, and another thing that I found that has been helpful is, man, working with that dirt. That dirt could take it, and being out in that garden and not just the plants themselves, like literally the earth, like chopping, like you gotta go chop some bamboo, get that machete and go out and chop some and move that, because it is the physiological aspect that needs to move. It's not just some abstract thing floating out in space. That emotion is fueled up, you know, some energy in you, and that needs to be discharged in a positive way. And I found that, you know, beyond when the breathing ain't good enough, I need to get outside and get in that dirt and chop some wood or do something and just get out and I feel I work up a sweat. I'm good and I'm breathing. And it's like, oh, now I can go back in and talk to somebody. I don't work this thing off, and hopefully I can communicate it in a way that'll get through.
You Black men are talking some talk tonight, and really making me appreciate you even more, because I don't even know how many Black men even go that deep with themselves to dissect those moments. You know, when you were saying go out and, you know, maybe chop some bamboo, I was thinking of Black men who go take it to the basketball court. You know, they don't know that they know they're feeling some kind of way, but they're not able to clearly define it for themselves. So they like, let me just go shoot some hoops, right? Raise their endorphin levels. And then they feel better, right? Maybe they don't come back to the issue of, I didn't know how to communicate, but they know they feel better. So I think when Black men can make the connection between their emotional selves and their physical selves, I think that a light bulb comes on. But the space and the time that is required for or the illusion of space and time that Black men think that they don't have to be able to sit still long enough to figure that out is evading them. You know, most Black men don't assume they have time to figure themselves out in that way so that they can push themselves to the next level. I think most Black men want to be happy. I think most Black men want peace of mind. I think they want peace within themselves. I think most Black men want a mate. I think most Black men generally want the same things as most people. But because that has been elusive to them, and then the emotional disconnect, the dysfunction that is all around them and all in them, they never have the time to put those two together. And Gio, you really pulled that together for me in the scenario of brothers who are on the basketball court. It makes me wonder about brothers who play ball. Do they play just for the sport of it, or do they play to really burn off some unresolved emotional energy that they can't get? Geoff's got his hand up.
And if I can just, I mean, and like I say, and it was definitely the sports, and it has not always been that way. It was a commitment to do the work, and what it was for me, not at the exact moment, but the life change was fatherhood, which made me become much more open to being introspective in that way. Because for me, it was football. And I was free safety, and I took out that anger. I would light people's life up. If you was a receiver and you came across my way, that was just my adolescent way of lighting your light up. And retrospect, looking back, it was a lot of that anger and the amount of physicality going into football and sports and things. It was definitely that, all of that anger and frustration, adolescence, and relationships with, you know, father and stuff that was going on that I didn't have that awareness. And I think that with fatherhood, it put me in a space that I became much more open to that introspectiveness. And from there, I began to seek ways and then to be serious about doing the work, because it wasn't just like, it was like, okay, now you need to do the work to get the results. And, you know, now 20 or so years down the line, it's like from doing that work, and I'm not there by any means, but I have the awareness in those moments and can navigate in a way that I could not have navigated 20 years ago.
I like that. You have the awareness to be able to navigate. We all have these big vehicles that the God and the Goddess have provided for us, right, on this planet. And it's the luxury model. It's the 2021 model. And we still don't know all the bells and whistles of the vessels that we're navigating, right? So we're all learning and developing strategies that help support our highest and our greatest good, sometimes unknowingly. But it's better when we know that we're trying to support the mission of learning all the bells and whistles of our vehicle, of our 2021 vehicle. Brother Stephen, Baba Stephen, would you like to bring up the rear with that last question?
I would appreciate it, Ia. The thing that I think comes to mind in, you know, situations where things are getting intense, the first emotion that comes up with me is the actual emotion, right? You know, it's like, this is what's happening. I'm grateful for the fact that I can now acknowledge that, like many other brothers are saying, right? Brother Geo even took it like a step further. And Baba Geo was saying, you know, he's actually found a methodology, you know, he can get in the earth and get out and do things to, you know, dissipate that feeling. But, you know, when I can speak for myself and say that when I have those, I'm now able to say, why am I having this particular feeling? A lot of times, and this is it, as Brother Baba King spoke to earlier, when we don't accomplish, when we're not accomplishing, when we're not doing, when we're not achieving our objective, whether it be a very finite goal, like us, I don't know, you know, I just came in from cutting the yard and I wanted to get some water and I can't accomplish that immediate objective. Something intervenes with that and we don't see ourselves accomplishing, then we just get frustrated. And it's good to some sense because that's how we're wired. But when we can't realize that it's often due to just some petty issue or some underlying issue that needs to be addressed differently, you know, that's an issue. But I think one of the only reasons people grow to the place where they can do that is because they get so frustrated with repeating the cyclical, you know, failures that accompany becoming and giving yourself to frustration, anger, fear. You know, you continually find yourselves in scenarios that come from you being only conscious of being angry and everything going red and all that mess. So once you get more frustrated with that, then you begin to engage in actually combating those things with the tools, as you said, the God and the Goddess have equipped us with. Rationale leads to X to Y to Z, and then you find yourself in a better place of understanding. So I guess my response is now to be observant, realistic, and intelligent. Thank you so much. Thank
you, Baba. We've got two more questions that I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to open it up for the brothers that are on the line that may want to engage in some questions or maybe give their own piece as in regards to, you know, this coping with compassion and having compassion for yourself and how that shows up and how you move in the world with compassion as a Black man. Are Black men who show up compassionately seen as less than masculine? And if you think that's true, why is that? Let's go. Baba Ken wants to talk.
I'm going to say unequivocally no. You know, you present the manly presence, then I'm going to say no for that. You know, however, I had to grow into that understanding of that point. You know, I think we're all possibly taught that, you know, men are not supposed to show their emotions. We're not supposed to be showing this compassion to other brothers and such and such and such, you know. And I thought that as a younger man, you know, I was in that zone to the point that I didn't even hug my father every time I saw him, you know. But then one day I was just like, hey, look, I got to break this mold. I just went on and hugged him. And I was like, you know, and therefore, if I felt better inwardly, introspectively, you know, I was like, this is something I needed, irregardless if he needed it. Because I was asking the question of myself, should I hug my father? I'm like, well, I should be hugging my father, but, you know, but it was, I think there was something in me that was ingrained in me when I was younger that wasn't supposed to be happening, you know. So now I can show other brothers that same compassion, that same love, you know, without looking weak. You know? So that's how I see it.
Compassion without looking weak. Any other brother want to tackle that? Does your push for compassion or the way you show up compassionately, does that make you less masculine?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Baba Ken on this. I don't think it makes you less masculine at all. And I'm part of a group called the Black Man's Lab here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we come together and we actually take some time where we show each other love. We're just gonna, give each other some hugs, embrace each other, let brothers know that we support them. And I think that's important because, it's a lot of weight on Black men. And I think that the more support other Black men show each other, at least I feel I could conquer the world with that type of support. And I think it's so necessary that brothers begin to show that support, show that care and concern for each other, because your wife is always going to give it to you. Sometimes, for the most part. But if the brothers are not there supporting you in your corner, then it becomes even more difficult for you to navigate through this life. So I think it's very important. And I don't think it's a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of being intelligent, because that's what we need in order to really reach our full potential.
That's what you need to reach your full potential. Yeah, ooh, it just gave me goosebumps. I saw in just that moment, I saw every little boy who's cried a tear, and someone told the little boy, don't you cry, because, little boys don't cry, or don't be no punk, or, all the things that we remove from a boy's natural humanity, not from their manhood, but we remove from their natural humanity. It takes away from who they become as a man and who they show up for when it comes to relationships. Because I'm just going to take a stab and say most sisters want a man who is strong and compassionate, and it's oftentimes that we can get the strength part, But the compassion, you know, sometimes you may get it, sometimes you may not. And I think it's hard for us as women, as Black women who love Black men, to help them navigate that, because, you know, we really can't. We can't show you how to grow you. Only you can do that. I think it's when we step back and allow you to grow. I think, you know, that is more conducive to your own healing. Anybody else wanna comment on this question? Baba Tommy.
Yes, I definitely agree. You know, the compassion component, you know, it lends to our strength. Because I mean, even if you look at, you know, just through our history and just our people in general, I mean, it was that love for our people, you know, that won those fights, or, you know, that overcame the obstacles that, you know, that we've overcome. So, you know, showing, and let me first give a quick shout to my brother Samora, because, you know, when it comes to showing brothers love, and then meeting his family, you know, it was like, yo, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just all came together. You know, one of the most hardest working brothers, you know, showing love to the brothers, to the youth, to the babies. And, you know, that's what the children need to see. You know what I mean? Like, they need to see us showing love to each other. You know what I mean? Because, you know, these cycles are so old. You know what I mean? Like, it's up to us to make these changes, you know, and continue to make the change. You know what I mean? Even if we made the change, you know, we have to be visible and do it for ourselves, but also for, you know, the babies. You know what I mean? Because these cycles keep repeating themselves. You know, it's a different day and time, so we really don't know what effect not love to each other will have for the next generation. You know what I'm saying? We don't even want to entertain that. So I agree. I mean, love is I mean, that's the foundation. You know what I mean? And that compassion, Lynn, continue to be there for our families and fight for, you know, for ourselves and our people. Not the only way, but that is one of the major foundations, in my opinion.
All right. Love is foundation for all of our growth, and especially as we grow individually and I'm talking about, you know, for those of us who do have wives and husbands, significant others, it's a part and parcel of what we need. Anybody else on the panel want to tackle that question before I hit y'all with y'all last question? Nope. All right. So I do want to, I don't know how many of you seen the comment over in the chat section, but Brother Hype said that compassion and empathy are pushed to the side in our society because an angry Black man meets the savage narrative that society has about us. When we learn to truly love, show humility and ego towards our fellow brother, we will eventually quell the idea of being weak. And when you show compassion towards another brother or others, that's real talk right there. The savage narrative. That's real talk. My brothers are often labeled and seen and demeaned as, you know, just a vessel without any emotion, any feeling. And I know that to be unequivocally untrue. So the savage narrative is real, and we have to begin to allow brothers the space and the time to unveil that and unravel that savage narrative that has been, you know, kind of thrown in your lap. Some of you could be savages. I believe that. Savage, but I want you to be a brother who's a savage with your career. Be a savage for your family. Be a savage for, you know, building, community building. Be a savage in those ways, in that respect. I'll uplift that. You know, I'll support that. A brother who's a savage in any of those fields could definitely have a sister that's riding by his side, and the two savages make a beast. That's what I heard. So you know, I'm gonna be a rider for mines if he's a savage for the family, if he's a savage for his community. So I think we have to begin to rewrite our own narratives and what those look like, and how we can uplift those and support them. And Brother Samora, if you could put in the chat group the name of the group, that the men's group that you are a part of in Atlanta. Maybe there's someone online who's near your area who, you know, may want to reach out to them. Our last question before we get into our audience asking their few questions, we've got about 15 minutes left, is for all of you on the panel, everybody has a wife. Now, I'm going to say that I didn't choose you because you had a wife. It just happened that Spirit chose you for the panel. You just happen to have a wife. Now, I'm glad that you do, because Black men in stable, working, progressive relationships is not an anomaly. It is not an anomaly. There are families that are intact. There are relationships that are intact. There are relationships that are working towards bigger and better things. And we have to begin to show our face in these spaces. We have to begin to dispel the myths that Black love does not exist. And especially Black love with compassion. We're not just, what's that song that came out in the 90s? We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. Feel you all the while. Let's just get married. I hate that song. I hated that song because it was like he was singing to her just like, you know, well, listen, we ain't got nothing else to do. And I ain't sure I love you right now, but I might love you a little later. So let's just go on and get married. No, I want a relationship to be built on some things that have a little bit more foundation to them. And Black men who are evolving in more compassionate ways, I believe, draw to them the mate that they need to fuel that compassion or build on that compassion. So this last question is about you and your relationships. When we're looking at compassion, or you're acting compassionately or not, what does that look like in your day-to-day relationship during confrontation or confrontational moments, during intimacy? What does that compassion look like during moments where you have to compromise? Because I believe that there should always be compassion and compromise. Compromise without it is just like you throwing in the towel, in my opinion. Don't substitute that for your own. But compromise with compassion. How does compassion look in your relationship with your significant other, with your spouse, with your wife? How does it show up in those moments? Oh, Baba Ken's gonna start. Uh-oh.
All right, seeing that we were kind of talking about this yesterday, me and her, I wanted to begin. So sometimes compassion in a relationship or marriage is sometimes not saying anything. It could be, just move on to the next subject or going somewhere else, do something else. Sometimes it is evaluating who you're with, meaning whatever the desire you think that you want, you know, you might value your wife more than what you want out of this particular incident. You know, that's what we were talking about yesterday. You know, I valued her in our relationship more than what I wanted at that given time. You know, it wasn't something I wanted to destroy our relationship over. Because you know, when I think back to when I met her and the journey we were taking with one another, you know, I knew I was supposed to be with this woman. This was my life partner. I knew it. It was like in my soul that it was like, you know, I got to have her. And you know, in a little bit, part of it was 50-50. It was like, you know, infatuation. You know, I got to have that thing. You know, as we say it as men. But once I kind of grew off that, you know, I was saying to myself, you know, because I was doing some things when I met her, you know. So I dropped that and I was like, I'm going to wait for this right here. I want this young lady, I want this woman that I've been talking to, you know. And I waited, and we've been journeying on for the last 20-something, going on 30 years, you know. So sometimes, you know, it's about backing off what you want and compromising, also showing reciprocity, you know, in the relationship. You know. That's all I have. I'll let the rest of the brothers fill it in for me because I feel we all have something to add to that right there.
Thank you, Baba Ken, player from the Himalayas. Brother Geoff.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll say that. Well, and what I'll do is I'll give an example. So since this the quarantine, the COVID-19, and us, you know, being in the house, and this issue around being in each other's space and around each other, and how compassion has shown up recently is like, so my ritual, or not my ritual, my routine is usually I fall asleep on the couch. And I like to fall asleep on the couch, then get myself up and get into bed. I don't like to just, okay, it's time to go to bed and I just go get into bed. I'm a sit on the couch, fall asleep, and then go get into bed kind of person. That's just, I don't know what that is, but it just makes me feel complete to fall asleep on the couch first, then get up. But because we aren't able to be in the space, and so my wife is an artist, and we have, and she has but she's not able to be in her space, an art studio space. And so really, with, you know, the boys have their rooms. Where I am, this is kind of office-ish kind of space, but it's my space. It's my space in the house where I used to do consults and such. But she really doesn't have a space in the house. And so she communicated to me that me falling asleep at night, the living room has become more of her space, where it's like, okay, when this, at this certain time in the evening, this is like, it was a request that, you know, can I have this space? And I wasn't listening to that. I still want to fall asleep and then go, but then, you know, my snoring and me being in this space, and just, it was more of a block on her wanting to have, you know, her me time in her space. You know, your wife, your spouse need their space and their thing. And the compassion showed up later. I wasn't being compassionate earlier, but I've learned that given that space, a lot of things work for my benefit by just listening and being willing to be empathic and hear what it is that she's communicating. That, okay, I like this, my living room too, but that's more of a thing to where listening to that and being willing to go and even just something as minor as that, it seems like a very minor thing, but that's, again, that trickled down in the past week from me being willing to just acknowledge that and move forward and give that space, because we're all fighting over space in the house and is worked in the positive. And I could have not done that and been on my ego and created more drama, and we already frustrated with each other and not being able to do what we want to do, and it just becomes this whole snowball effect. But that's something recently around space that has really shown up. And so again, from learning from that, it, you know, where I'm at now, I'm able to look at that and then look at other places where that same thing may be showing up, and, you know, continue to do the work to correct it.
Oh, wise young grasshopper. Yes, baby, that's value. That's value. That's learning that you can get more bees using honey than vinegar. Yeah, that's a wise selection, and it definitely helps in those moments when you can pivot and realize that, you know, like Baba Ken said, the value, what I value about this person I claim I love is more than me being right or me wanting, or, you know, the I. So that's definitely a compassionate moment. Anybody else have something to lend to that? Baba Tommy.
All right. So just to add on, and I appreciate everyone's comments, but to add on, I think while I say that compassion begins with just the essentials for me. Just making sure that, you know, if it's been a long day, whether if we either have meetings or work to do, or, you know, making a run out somewhere, just making sure that well, in the relationship, making sure that she has just the essentials. You know, water, food, you know, did you eat? You know, I'm about to make something, did you want something? You know what I'm saying? So it just starts with just the basics. And, you know, from there, it can go to like, you know, an impromptu business meeting. You know, do we need to work on this or that? But just being able to be mindful of the things that need to be done. And if I see an imbalance in, you know, even including myself in the equation, like if there's like if I've been out all day and, you know, she hasn't, you know, what's the vibe in the house when I come back, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it something I need to pick up, you know, in the house, you know, the children, you know what I mean? So it's basically the essentials, number one, and number two is, you know, just filling out the energy and making sure that things are in as much balance as possible in the household. That's pretty much what I have.
All right, Baba Thomas, thank you. Baba Stephen, do you have anything to lend to this for your household and your marriage? Oh, hold it. I'm gonna have to help you. Hold on. All right, go ahead.
Appreciate it. Yeah, just real quick, and if there's any newlyweds out there listening as well, I mean, honestly, Baba Ogunda hit it on the head. A lot of times we become consumed for whatever reason with, you know, our spouse, our significant other. I love that it was eloquent. It was, you know, you all, my wife is more important to me than anything going on at the time. And that really remained the overarching theme of our marriage. So what would often happen would be that it was a brash attempt to continually express that I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this for you, right? And everything became, and to some degree is, because that's the expression that God has given us of beauty, here. So it's a good rule. In any case, I think, or I believe that in doing that, we have to, extrapolate our opinion from the process, right? It shouldn't be so much of I'm doing out of a compassionate spirit this for you. It should be, as the brothers have stated, I have listened to, and this is my interpretation of what compassion towards you should look like. And when you become learned enough to express your compassion in that way, you learn how to expect and appreciate when compassion is expressed to you in that same manner as well. So just kind of a little tip, or my take on it rather, is that while it's good to be compassionate, it's better to be intelligently compassionate. So learning to communicate effectively, listening first, is gonna often trump just an overt act of what you consider compassion.
Ooh, cerebral brothers, you are. Cerebral brothers, you are. And then that leads me to Brother Samora, who is navigating a new marriage. Yay. To give a hug, kiss to Sister Latrice for me.
Yeah, most definitely. But I think first and foremost, it's like a love for my wife, Latrice. Like day one, we pray together, we meditate together. But the compassion part too is to make sure she's well taken care of. I definitely agree with one of the Bibles who said, if I'm going to the kitchen to get my vitamins, I make sure she has her vitamins. I make sure she has what she needs to get through her day. I cook. I love to cook. So, I cook around the house too. It's not just her responsibility, but to actually pitch in. And when we have disagreements, it's like having the compassion. I love my wife so much. I'm not going to yell at my wife in any type of disagreement. I have a discussion with her about what I don't agree with what she's doing, and vice versa for me too. So I think that level of compassion for just who she is as a person and the love that I have for her allows me to operate in the space that I operate in.
What I hear from all of you is that your spouse is an extension of yourself. And that's a good space to be in. I think you evolve when your mate can become an extension of yourself, part and parcel of yourself. That often shows up too in your children. They become extension of yourself, but do they become an extension of your greatest self? What you've contributed to yourself, the greater part of yourself. Well, with that being said, I want to thank all of the brothers on the panel tonight who have contributed to such an interesting topic. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, that is not often asked. Black men are not often asked how they feel or what they think. And I'm grateful to Spirit for allowing me the opportunity to provide an intimate glimpse into the minds of these beautiful Black men before me. I want to say to the guests that are still logged on, thank you for riding this one out. This was a long one, but it did, listen, Black men deserve some time. The world's always rushing them. They're always rushing them. So they needed all the time they could get tonight. Is there anyone that is logged on that may want to add or contribute to this conversation or ask a question? This is now your time. Is there anybody? If you can get to your physical, your raise of your hand, unmute yourself. So here's what I'm gonna do. Nobody said anything. I'm gonna ask Brother Hype. Brother Hype, I see you on the line. Thank you for tuning in. Is there anything that you would like to add to this conversation or this discussion? Some food for thought before we sign off?
What am I doing? Okay, so reciprocity is something that is
Brother Hype, you. Okay, we can't hear you, or maybe he's with someone else. Is there anyone else? Any of the sisters that are on? Is there anything that you would like to add to this conversation? You are definitely a piece of this this greatness that's before us. So, are there any sisters who would like to add anything for these brothers? Any words of inspiration, anything that they'd like to add from their perspective? No? Nobody wants to say anything? Really? Dead silence. Okay. All right. I'll go with that. Well, in case there is a later thought or something comes up in the interim, you can find this podcast replay on YouTube. If you can subscribe to the Sacred Waters Retreat YouTube page, you'll find this podcast. The replay will go up. You can also leave any of your comments on any of our social media platforms on IG, Twitter, and Facebook. Or you can simply email them if you'd like to. Our social media director definitely would take those and post those. I want to thank each of the brothers for taking some time out tonight of their schedule. I don't know what you all were doing this quarantine evening. I don't know, maybe getting a pedicure or, getting a shave or something. I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I don't know what you were going to do this afternoon, but I want to thank you for taking some time out to be with me in my home here in Clarksville, Tennessee. I want you to make sure that you are investing your time in yourself. You cannot be great for us if you can't be great to yourself first. We need you in our lives. We don't want you to perish prematurely. We don't want you to be stressed out so bad that you fall down. We don't want you to, we don't want you to suffer unnecessarily. We love you as Black women. We love you. I stand in the fold for that. We love you unequivocally. We love you. And we want you here on the planet with us so that we can stand by your side. We are your riders forever. Not Bonnie and Clyde. We the real riders. So I want you to work on yourselves, healing yourselves, asking yourselves the bigger questions, going deeper within and finding the resources and the things that build you up and keep you steady. And you don't always have to be a rock of Gibraltar. You can be soft. And that's perfectly okay, because we know that the strength is still there. We know we stand beside you every day and we see your weakest moments and your highest highs. So be unafraid to be who you are. Seek out support, Black men. It is very crucial, definitely during this time, because, people are losing their minds in this chaotic thing of the V word. So if there's a brother near you, or maybe there's a brother that's not near you, someone that you trust in, that you can talk to, and you're not just shooting the shit about, don't just shoot the shit. I like to hear brothers talk and have deep conversations, like sisters sometimes. I realize you all don't, you don't go as much as we do, but it's good to see brothers when they collectively get together and they really put their heads together to make moves and motions. So I want to thank you all for taking some time out of your schedule tonight to be with us. I am the host of Seed, Soil, and Soul, Sobande Greer. You can find us anywhere on social media. I am still an analog girl in a digital world. So if you need me, you're going to have to probably dial my number or text me. But otherwise, I'll be there for you. Thank you to each and every one of you who have logged on. Have a really good night. Have some wine. Go have a date night in the car. That's a new one. Go get your spouse, get away from the kids, go to the car and have a date. Get you some moonshine. No, don't do moonshine. That's too hard. Do some easy. You don't want to get too twisted. Get some easy stuff. Get some cards. Go sit by the water or something. Have a car date. We are notorious for ingenuity. Do something different. All right, now's the time. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see some of you tomorrow during our herbal happy hour, where I will feature a particular herb, a common herb, and we're gonna pour it up in some drinks. I'm gonna show you how to do that thing. Mocktail, cocktail, whatever you want. Tune on in tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Love y'all. Bye.